For me, I think what game is making something matter to people that it may not has been. So to create, I think impact games, I think people has to be involved, as we all know. Then involving means not just talking about it, but actually doing something, right? Which means actions, and it's a play. So so I think what player do matter is sort of like in principle of how sort of games work, not because game is fun, entertainment type of thing. So for me, my shift was from storytelling about talking about something to story playing because how can I bring people in to the experience of the things that I wanted to sort of share and move and make people active. So, teen suicide prevention. I mean, to be frank with you, until a few years ago, until I started this project, I had no interest because it was, as you know, it's a scary subject matter, and I have two teenage boys, and I don't want to think about these issues. But Korea is famous for many things: K-pop, K-drama, and also Korea. Past 20 years, Korea has been number one country in terms of suicide death. It's embarrassing, but it has been a huge issue. And one day, I had a visitor from Samsung. He's not in a suit, but he worked for Samsung. So apparently, they've been actually consolidating their CSR effort. Before, they had like thousands of programs, they just give money away. But then they wanted to actually just only do few, but actually they wanted to get involved. So they came in and they said, we're gonna do something about teen suicide prevention. And we had many discussions and whatnot. And one thing that sort of I tell them is, I mean, I cannot promise I will solve this problem, right? That would be crazy. But then what hit me was, okay, in one condition, if we develop this program, it has to be played everyone in school that's participating. Because I think suicide is we consider it as like individual issues, but it is a social issue. It's not about one person. It's about school, friends, and community. So on that, and as you know, that suicide it leads to death. But however, suicide has many different causes, right? Everyone has different causes. And one of the things, as I'm sort of getting involved in this project that I learned is that the age that's attempting suicide or harming themselves is getting younger. And I even hear the news about 10, 11-year-old trying to suicide. And it's just unimaginable. In that age, that thought shouldn't even be in their head. So we worked with the expert and then did lots of research that obviously these are the problems that we cannot solve by tackling the cause of it, right? And some problems you want to identify the cause and then get rid of it. Suicide you cannot because there's a million different reasons. And then we find something because actually cause and outcome cannot be matched. But however, this is what we learned: help-seeking behavior. As long as they ask for help, then there's intervention can happen, right? Because suicide is not something you can prevent. You have to sort of intervene before it happened when they trying something about that. So, and unfortunately, we know, we always say, you're not alone, and you can always ask for help, but it seems it sort of ends there, meaning we just talk about it like that you just come for help. But it's hard. So we actually work on two projects for the teens to be played in schools. I'm sorry, I'm very jet lagged and so I'm a little mumbling. But so we actually start designing a game based on that, and And the main goal was, how to make people in school, like older students, to talk about this, right? So, and one of the interesting thing was, as we were working with the Samsung, like these people, they have no idea what we were doing. We tried to explain them, and it's just kind of like, it's unconventional, right? So it's like, what are you doing? Tell us, show us. And then, so even them was unsure what we were developing until we had a first playtest. And then I think the game, is important. Playtesting is important because that's the time when you know that it works or it clicks and it can move. So anyway, so we had a amazing initial playtesting. Whoops, what did I do? Sorry, wrong button. And Likey was the name that they come up with. So with a little character. Because we wanted to design the program that's kids friendly, they sort of can relate to. So the main idea is, the reason we wanted to make game out of was, it's not something you should be scared of, it's something that we need to be able to talk about, right? Not to make fun of, but it has to be light enough in a sense you can casually talk about it in some sense, So initial idea was, we're gonna bring like hundreds of university level students, grown-ups, and sort of teach them to be a mentor, go out to schools and maybe run this program. Good idea, right? Because it's, some expertise might need it to communicate with the kids. And then we designed the game, but it was digital, but also they wanted to have this sort of analog component because it's important, like tactile, so kind of pretty. So there were sort of analog components that works with the digital element. So the first game we designed was about expressing your emotion, right? The basic stuff. And as you know, like in schools, they do these programs that, hey, let's talk about how you feel in the situation, right? And have you tried that with the like high school students? You mean good, right? But it's like, they're not gonna talk about the emotions, right? It doesn't work. So again, I think lots of things that goes wrong in school is like intentions are good. It's just like, it's your intention, not really thinking about their intention. So idea actually end up simple. So the first game about emotion is, as you could sort of imagine, it's about there's a situation and you sort of guess what one of the player might feel, and then you try to sort of guess. But we added little game element that's familiar to the gamer. So first you start choosing avatar, right? But here is the big thing. Sorry, it's in Korean. But you can sort of imagine, you pick these characters, they are sort of based on like K-pop and then K-drama sort of characters, so kids sort of know. But the idea is that we don't want them to role play. It wasn't about choosing avatar to role play. But what we wanted to do was exact the problem that I mentioned, which is kids don't want to talk about how they feel. So this is actually there. So when they talk about how they feel, it's not me. It's this character. So it was more about, it's not the role play, it's actually give them excuse to feel safe, to talk about that emotion. But then again, as you know, right, when you play the game, right, you come out, right? In a way, like who you are comes out. So at the beginning, they kind of pretend it's the character talking about the emotion, but immediately as they start talking, it's them. It's about them, the emotions, but they feel comfortable because they run this loop, game loop and the feedback of play. So they are okay to talk about it, So they talk about the characters and this, and I don't know about state, but these are like high school students. It's a boys' school. You never see them smile like that, talking to each other. So this was sort of like good sign that they was engaged. They were actually having fun talking about their emotion. And then other component was ask for help. So this is all the part that I think we talk a lot about. You're not alone. Ask for help. This is the person that you can sort of talk to. However, we never actually teach them about how to talk about, seeking help. Like, so we done some research, and then again, like work with the expert, and then basically, like when you're in school, you learned about 5 Ws and 1 H, right? When you write like articles or something like that. So we thought, what if we make help seeking into like 5-step process, something simple. So who you want to talk to, and when you want to talk to, and how to start talk. And the third step was most important because that's the hard part. So I'm gonna talk to the counselor, lunchtime, but what do I say, So, and then some of the example choices that they had was just, what's a choice? I know it doesn't sound much, but what we wanted was like, you don't think like, it's like a conversation, but sometimes it's just like, you don't have to say. That was the idea, right? So we wanted to give them the spectrum of choices. You don't have to be ready to talk about deep thing. You can just start, make noise, and then they will start listen, at least, So that kind of stuff. And then express emotions, ask for help is actually more detailed structure of how you could construct your next conversations. So this part was a bit interesting. So we wanted to structure it in a way, it's a collaborative work, and then each one has a situation that in that situation, you have to construct your sort of help-seeking conversations, but however, you don't have all the choices. Your friends, other players has choices that you need. So even in the simple game structure, we sort of built in that there's a need to ask for help, to get the right proper conversation pieces, but also there's a need to help out others, So once kids do this emotion things and then help-seeking thing, then one of the big event at the end of the semester is we turn school into a conversation. So as you can see, we just cover the whole space with the posters of the questions and missions they sort of could do. And then, every break time, people comes out. It's actually like a treasure hunt, like simple mission. So there will be some problems or some things, and then in other location, you'd actually find the answer or solution for it. But it's a whole space. So kids run around, and they talk about what they find, So they can use their phone to sort of register, so we can also accumulate the data. So these are some of photos of it. So the things that I like that sort of worked with this was we designed this game. So the game is digital based that use mobile thing, but it's not a digital experience. Digital only helps to facilitate the conversation. So it's just kids sitting around and talk. And the reason we designed the game this way is when I was participating, preparing for Quest to Learn schools, and I had experience like one of the students. And this kid obviously had a therapy, I think probably when he was very little. So he bumped into friends, and he's like, he stops, and then like, wait a minute, now I feel uncomfortable because this happens. And so, that's a proper way to talk about it, but then again, that's not a proper way that 12-year-old are gonna talk about. So what hit me there was that it's not about knowing the language. Communication isn't about just knowing certain vocabulary or language, but we need to share the word and language that we need to have a shared language that we communicate. So these simple model of the game gave students who's participating, again, like I said, everyone in school participated, so they have their own way to talk about the emotions and then ask for help. So immediately, so we did a 1 year. First year was pilot program for 3 schools, and then this is our 3rd year going. And immediately what happened was, again, like I'm not claiming that we solved it. It's a very complex problem and there's lots of things need to happen. But immediately there are more students going to the counselor. So not to talk about just heavy stuff, but now they feel comfortable going to counselor and talk about, and then also among themselves almost jokingly talk about, you need help? Like you look depressed, let's talk. So the conversation sort of changed. So so we continue to develop and run the program in schools, but there's also researchers actually making sure we actually get the positive sort of output. So, and then I showed you initial build, which was digital, but also had lots of analog component. And I thought like, one of challenge with these type of program is it's hard to expand, scale up. So I thought it's all good with this analog things, but however, if we just make it 100% digital, anyone with the internet access could get it. So we convinced Samsung to actually do further development to convert the game into full digital. And so we lose everything but just digital devices. So anyone can play anywhere. And also what we learned is, because it's a game, that we didn't need college student mentor. The teenagers, like they could actually teach themselves, play with their peers. And we started doing that starting last year. And so the university students, the mentor are there to just making sure, give them support. But these like 13, 14-year-old kids, they have no problem running the program. Because at the end, like it is a game. And they are playing and talking. So this was quite moving. And then surprisingly, they actually got better the review point than grown-ups. Like kids actually like more when their friends actually teach them and talk about these issues. So, and then the Ministry of Education sort of heard about this program, and then they really got interested in, and they were like, so Samsung was originally designed this program to be cover 15 schools every year, which is nothing, right? Like 15 schools in the country. And then Ministry of Education, like obviously they want like thousands and thousands of schools get involved. But because we turn everything into digital, we could actually start providing this. So starting last year, we actually started teaching teachers from across the country who wanted to be involved, because the system is ready and available. Right now it's only in Korean, but I'm hoping to sort of bring that the English version with the right partner here. So, and then, these grown-ups, again, like play as if they were the students. And so Korea is a small country, but as you can see, we covered, 42 sessions, 26 schools, and almost 400 teachers has been trained. And what's surprising is now, because it's in all digital, and also the teachers getting involved, we didn't design this to be played in elementary school, but teachers bring it to like elementary school as well, because yes, there are like suicide and sort of serious matters as well, but teachers can sort of filter certain topics. But I think it's important that kids, again, like about the emotions and help seeking it's no difference, right? So anyway, so now the program is student runs, we do teachers, but we also collaborate any special institutions who sort of wanted to participate. And also, because the mental health has been a big issue, besides sort of this teen suicide prevention program, we're also working with the government agency as well, and also the Samsung Hospital with expert to develop sort of more program into it. So not to brag, but I think in Korea, because the issue is serious, very serious, that the government and companies and like every sectors at this point are willing to sort of do something about it. So anyway, I think game is impact, and I think as we all know, and that's why we are here. I think play matters, right? So that's end of my talk. I actually am over. I'm over, but let's make it matter. Thank you.